You are probably sitting next to a millionaire right now and you have absolutely no idea. The person two tables over at the coffee shop, wearing a faded polo shirt and reading something on a tablet. The woman ahead of you at the grocery store loading generic brand cereal into a cart. Your neighbor who mows his own lawn every Saturday morning and drives a 12-year-old Honda Accord that could really use a wash. None of them look wealthy. None of them act wealthy. And if you ask anyone who knows them casually whether they think those people have money, the answer would almost certainly be no. But here's what is interesting. Research from the book The Millionaire Next Door, which studied over 1,000 millionaires across the United States over 20 years, found that the typical American millionaire lives in a middle-class neighborhood, spends less than you would expect on almost everything, and is virtually impossible to identify by appearance alone. 86% of luxury cars are driven by people who are not millionaires. The cars that millionaires actually drive most often are Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords that have been paid off years ago. So the question is not what do rich people look like? The question is what do rich people do that gives them away if you know what to watch for? My name is Ivan, and today I'm going to walk you through 13 signs that someone around you has built real, lasting wealth without anyone noticing. Sign number 1. They never volunteer their net worth or their income. Ask someone who is performing wealth how much they make, and you will usually get an answer. Sometimes you do not even need to ask. It comes up naturally in conversation. I just got a raise. You would not believe what they're paying me now. My bonus this year was insane. Ask someone who is actually wealthy the same question and watch what happens. The conversation redirects. They change the subject so smoothly that you do not realize your question was never answered. Or they give a vague response that sounds like an answer but contains no actual information. I am doing fine. I cannot complain. Things are comfortable. This is not an accident. Wealthy people learn through experience that disclosing financial information creates problems that no amount of money can solve. Friends start asking for loans. Family dynamics shift. People treat you differently, sometimes with resentment, sometimes with expectation, and rarely in ways that improve the relationship. Think about Rich Richard and Poor Peter for a moment. Rich Richard got a promotion and a significant raise last year. He told nobody. Not his parents, not his closest friends, not the guys he plays basketball with on Thursday evenings. His lifestyle did not visibly change. His relationship stayed the same. Poor Peter got a similar raise. He posted about it on social media. He told everyone at dinner. Within 3 months, his brother-in-law asked for a loan. His college roommate suggested they split a vacation rental that somehow cost twice what Peter would have chosen on his own. And 2 separate friends started making comments about how Peter should be picking up the check more often since he is doing so well now. Same raise, completely different outcomes. The difference was not the money, it was the information. Sign number 2, they own their home outright, or they are very close to paying it off. Most Americans carry a mortgage for 30 years and accept it as normal. They refinance, they take out home equity lines of credit, and they treat the house like a financial tool to access more spending. Secretly, wealthy people do the opposite. They either paid off the mortgage early or they bought their home with cash in the first place. Not a mansion, often a modest home in a reasonable neighborhood, but it is theirs, completely and without any monthly obligation to a bank. The math behind this is worth understanding. A $350,000 mortgage at 7% interest over 30 years costs roughly $488,000 in interest alone. That means a total paid is over $838,000 for a $350,000 house. The secretly wealthy person who paid off that same house 20 years early saved hundreds of thousands of dollars that were then redirected into investments that compound silently in the background. What you see from the outside is a regular house in a regular neighborhood. What you cannot see is that the person inside has zero housing costs, and the money that would have gone to a bank every month has been growing at 8% annually for over a decade. Sign number 3, they wear clothes with no visible logos. This one sounds almost too simple to be meaningful, but there is actual academic research behind it. A study published in the Journal of Marketing introduced a concept called brand prominence, which measures how visible a brand's logo is on a product. The researchers identified 4 types of luxury consumers. The group they called patricians, people with high wealth and low need for social status, consistently preferred products with minimal or invisible branding. They were willing to pay more for items that only other patricians would recognize. The group most likely to wear large, visible logos were what the researchers called parvenus, people with some wealth but a strong need to signal it. and the group most likely to buy counterfeit versions of those same loud logos were people without wealth at all, trying to look like they belong. In other words, the louder the logo, the less likely the person wearing it has genuine wealth. The secretly wealthy person at the coffee shop is wearing a well-made jacket with no visible brand. It fits well. It is clearly quality fabric, but there is nothing on it that tells you what it cost or where it came from. That is not a coincidence. That is a signal you were never supposed to decode. Rich Richard owns about 12 pieces of clothing that he wears on rotation. Most of them are solid colors. No logos, no branding, no designer labels visible anywhere. He pays more per item than poor Peter does, but he buys far less frequently because the quality lasts years instead of seasons. His annual clothing budget is actually lower than Peter's despite the higher per item cost. Poor Peter owns roughly 60 items of clothing, many of them purchased specifically because the brand name is visible. His closet is full. His credit card statement reflects it. And the social value of each item starts declining the moment someone in his circle buys the same thing. Sign number 4, they give generously, but nobody knows about it. Quietly, wealthy people tend to be some of the most generous people in their communities, but you would never hear about it from them. They donate to causes they care about through structures like donor-advised funds, which allow them to contribute during high-income years, receive the tax benefit immediately, and distribute the money to charities over time without any public announcement. They might pay for a neighbor's medical bill anonymously. They might fund a scholarship at a local school without their name attached. They might tip 40% at restaurants, not because they want to impress anyone at the table, but because they remember when 40% would have meant everything to them. Research on self-made millionaires has found that those who built their wealth from the ground up report higher levels of life satisfaction than people who inherited similar amounts. Part of that satisfaction comes from a sense of agency and gratitude that naturally expresses itself through giving rather than displaying. They feel fortunate, and they act on that feeling quietly. The difference between this and performative generosity is simple. Performative generosity needs an audience. Quiet generosity needs a cause. And if you look closely, the people who give the most publicly are rarely the ones giving the most in total. The largest donations in any community tend to come from names that never appear on a plaque, a building, or a social media post. The giving happens. The recognition does not. And that tells you everything you need to know about where the money comes from. Sign number 5, they talk about ideas and projects, never prices. Pay attention to what someone discusses in casual conversation and you will learn a lot about their financial situation without ever asking directly. People who are financially stressed or financially performative talk about money constantly. They talk about what things cost. They talk about deals they found. They mention the price of their new phone, their vacation package, the dinner they had last weekend. The conversation always circles back to a number because the number is the point. It validates the spending. Secretly wealthy people almost never discuss prices. They will talk about a trip they took, but they describe the experience, not the resort rate. They will mention a book that changed how they think about something. They will ask you about your projects, your interests, the problem you are trying to solve at work. The conversation moves toward ideas, possibilities, and observations. It moves away from what anything costs. Thomas Corley, who studied the daily habits of self-made millionaires for 5 years, found that 88% read at least 30 minutes a day for self-education. Not scrolling, not entertainment, deliberate learning. Their conversations reflect this habit. They have more to talk about than purchases because they spend more time thinking than shopping. Next time you are at a dinner party, try this experiment. Listen to who talks about things and who talks about ideas. The person describing their new kitchen renovation is not the wealthiest person at the table. The person asking thoughtful questions about someone else's small business and then offering a perspective based on a book they recently finished. That is the one with money in the background that nobody in the room suspects. Sign number 6. They drive a car that tells you absolutely nothing about their bank account. If you want to find the wealthiest person in a parking lot, ignore the BMW, the Mercedes, and the new Audi with temporary plates. Look for the clean but unremarkable sedan that has clearly been driven for years and shows no signs of being replaced anytime soon. If you want the math, consider what happens when you take an average new car payment, roughly $754 per month based on recent industry data, and instead invest that money at 8% annual returns for 10 years. You end up with over $131,000. Over 20 years, that number grows to roughly $440,000. Over 30 years, well over $800,000. Rich Richard drives a 9-year-old Toyota Camry that was paid off 6 years ago. He has no car payment. The money that would have gone to a lender has been moving into an index fund every month since the day the loan disappeared. He does not think about his car. It starts every morning. It gets him where he needs to go. He has done the math and decided that the emotional pleasure of a new car is worth significantly less than $800,000. Poor Peter leases a new vehicle every 3 years because he believes the car he drives communicates something important about who he is. And he is right. It does communicate something. It communicates that he has chosen to look wealthy instead of building wealth. Sign number 7. They collect experiences or knowledge, not status objects. Secretly, wealthy people tend to have interesting hobbies that reveal a particular kind of curiosity. They might restore furniture in their garage. They might grow an unreasonable amount of vegetables in their backyard. They might be learning a second language or teaching themselves woodworking or spending weekends hiking trails that require a 3-hour drive to reach. What they are usually not doing is collecting things that exist primarily to be seen. They are not accumulating designer shoes, limited edition sneakers, or the latest piece of consumer electronics on launch day. The distinction here matters because it reveals something about what the person values. Status objects depreciate in both monetary and social value. The new phone is impressive for about 2 weeks. The designer watch gets noticed a few times and then becomes part of the background. Experiences and skills appreciate. They compound in memory. They become part of how you think and what you can do. Wealthy people figured this out somewhere along the way. And once you understand it, you start to notice that the most financially secure people you know tend to be the ones with the most interesting stories and the fewest impressive possessions. A JP Morgan survey of over 100 billionaire families found that the single most common habit they shared was reading, not business news exclusively. Books on history, science, biography, philosophy. Warren Buffett has said he spends roughly 80% of his day reading and thinking. Elon Musk, when asked how he learned to build rockets, reportedly answered with 2 words: I read books. These are not people who lack the resources to fill their lives with expensive objects. They simply learned that knowledge compounds the same way money does, and that the returns from curiosity outperform the returns from consumption by a margin that is not even close. Sign number 8. They handle financial emergencies without visible stress. A pipe bursts in the basement. The car needs a new transmission. A medical bill arrives that was not expected. Watch how someone reacts and you learn more about their financial position than any income disclosure could tell you. For most people, an unexpected expense of $2,000 creates genuine stress. Surveys consistently show that a significant percentage of American adults could not cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing money or selling something. A $2,000 surprise for these households is not an inconvenience. It is a crisis. For a secretly wealthy person, the same event barely registers emotionally. Not because they do not care, but because $2,000 against a 7-figure net worth is a rounding error. The pipe gets fixed. The mechanic gets called. The bill gets paid. Life continues. This composure is not something they practice deliberately. It is a natural consequence of financial security. When money is not scarce, the nervous system does not fire the same way in response to financial surprises. Problems become logistics, not emergencies. You see this calm and you might assume the person simply does not care about money. The reality is usually the opposite. They care about money deeply enough to have accumulated an amount that makes most financial surprises manageable. Now, before we get to sign number 9, if you are finding this valuable, subscribe to the channel. Understanding how wealth actually works is the first step toward building it yourself. Sign number 9, they say no to things they can easily afford. This is one of the most counterintuitive signs and one of the hardest to fake. Secretly wealthy people regularly decline purchases, invitations, and opportunities that they could afford without thinking twice. A friend suggests an expensive dinner. They counter with a more modest restaurant. A salesperson presents the premium package. They choose the standard version. A new gadget launches. They wait. The instinct from the outside is to assume these people are cheap. They have the money. Why not spend it? But the question misses the point entirely. They have the money precisely because of this habit, not in spite of it. The ability to say no to things you can afford is the single behavior that separates accumulators from spenders at every income level. Rich Richard earns $200,000 a year and lives on about $65,000, not because his life is uncomfortable. His needs are met and then some, but because every dollar not spent becomes a dollar that compounds. Over 20 years, The gap between what he earns and what he spends has quietly grown into a portfolio worth well over $2 million. Poor Peter earns the same $200,000 and spends $185,000. His life looks significantly more expensive. Better restaurants, better clothes, better vacations, but his net worth after 20 years is a fraction of Rich Richard's because he never developed the discipline of refusing what he could afford. Sign number 10, they own things that generate money while they sleep. You will never hear a secretly wealthy person say they own rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, or equity in a business over casual conversation. But if you pay close attention, you notice something interesting. Their time is unusually flexible. They do not seem stressed about taking a Thursday afternoon off. They are never desperately worried about job security. That is because a meaningful portion of their income does not depend on them showing up to work. They built or bought assets that produce cash flow independently. Rental income that arrives on the first of every month. Dividend payments from index funds and individual stocks that deposit quarterly. A small business or partnership that generates revenue without requiring their daily involvement. None of this is visible from the outside. Their neighbor sees someone who apparently has a flexible schedule. What the neighbor does not see is the 20 years of disciplined investing and reinvesting that created that flexibility. The income is real, it is recurring, and it is invisible to anyone who is not reading their brokerage statements. Consider the math. Someone who invested $500 per month into a diversified index fund for 25 years at an average return of 8% would have accumulated roughly $475,000. At that point, the portfolio itself generates roughly $38,000 per year in returns without the owner adding another cent. That is a second salary that requires no commute, no meetings, no annual review. And the person earning it looks exactly like everyone else in the neighborhood because none of that income is attached to a job title, a corner office, or a company car. Sign number 11. Their home is modest, but everything in it works perfectly. Walk into the home of a secretly wealthy person and you will not find marble countertops, a home theater, or a swimming pool in the backyard. What you will find is a home that feels surprisingly well maintained. The kitchen appliances work reliably. The floors are clean and in good condition. The plumbing is solid. The roof was replaced 2 years before it started leaking, not 2 years after. This is the maintenance mindset versus the upgrade mindset. People who perform wealth upgrade their visible surfaces. New kitchen finishes, bathroom remodels, furniture that looks good in photographs. People who have built real wealth maintain their infrastructure. They fix problems before they become expensive. They replace systems at the right time, not the fashionable time. The result is a home that does not photograph well for social media but functions exceptionally well for living. Everything works. Nothing breaks. The heating system has been serviced annually for 15 years. The water heater was replaced proactively. The driveway was sealed before the cracks became structural. This is exactly how they treat their financial lives as well. Preventive, systematic, invisible from the outside. Sign number 12. They carry almost no consumer debt. One of the clearest statistical findings about self-made millionaires is the near total absence of consumer debt. They do not carry credit card balances. They do not finance furniture. They do not use buy now, pay later services for clothing or electronics. If they carry any debt at all, it is strategic leverage, a low interest mortgage on a rental property that generates cash flow exceeding the payment. A business loan with terms that make mathematical sense relative to the expected return. The debt serves a clear purpose and has a defined payoff strategy. Consumer debt, the kind that finances lifestyle, is almost completely absent from millionaire balance sheets. Not because they cannot access credit. Their credit scores are typically excellent, but because they understand a fundamental principle that separates the wealthy from everyone else. Interest paid on depreciating items is money that works against you instead of for you. Every dollar paid in credit card interest at 20% is a dollar that could have been growing at 8% in an index fund. The difference in direction, one shrinking and one growing, is the difference between accumulating wealth and slowly losing it. Rich Richard has one credit card. He uses it for every purchase to capture the cashback rewards, and he pays the full balance every month without exception. He has never carried a balance. He has never paid a cent of interest. The credit card company technically loses money on him because he collects their rewards without ever triggering their revenue model, which depends on people carrying balances and paying interest. Poor Peter has 4 credit cards. 3 of them carry balances. He pays the minimum on 2 of them and a little extra on the third when he remembers. He spends roughly $3,000 per year in interest payments alone. That $3,000 invested instead would be worth over $120,000 after 20 years. He is not aware of this number. If he were, it might change his behavior, but nobody has ever shown him the math because the credit card companies benefit enormously from him never doing it. Sign number 13. They never rush a financial decision regardless of the size. The last sign is one that takes years to develop but becomes unmistakable once you see it. Secretly, wealthy people do not make financial decisions quickly, whether the amount is small, large, or somewhere in between. Someone offers them a great deal on an investment. They say they will think about it. A salesperson creates artificial urgency. This price is only available today. They walk away. A market drops 20% and everyone around them is panic selling. They sit still. This patience is not passivity. It is a filter. They have learned through experience that the quality of a financial decision is almost always inversely related to the speed at which it was made. Decisions made slowly tend to be correct. Decisions made under pressure tend to be expensive. The waiting period serves a specific function. It allows emotion to settle and information to accumulate. A purchase that feels essential on Monday evening often looks unnecessary by Thursday. An investment that seems urgent usually becomes available again next week at the same price or lower. A crisis that demands immediate financial action almost never actually does. Rich Richard has a rule he applies to any non-essential financial decision over $500. He waits 7 days. During those 7 days, he does nothing. He does not research the item further. He does not compare options. He simply waits. At the end of 7 days, roughly 70% of those decisions make themselves. The desire is gone. The urgency was manufactured. The money stays invested. Poor Peter has no such rule. When something catches his attention, he buys it. When a deal has a deadline, he acts before the deadline. When a financial decision makes him feel something, excitement, fear, ambition, the emotion drives the action. And those actions, accumulated over decades, are the reason his net worth is a fraction of what it could have been. Here is what connects all 13 of these signs. None of them are about income or luck or having a specific career, a certain education, or an unusual talent. Every single sign is a behavior, a choice repeated so many times that it becomes invisible to the person doing it and undetectable to the people watching. The reason this matters is not so you can identify the wealthy people around you, although you probably will start noticing them now. The reason it matters is that every one of these 13 signs is also a habit, and habits can be adopted by anyone at any income level. You do not need to earn $200,000 a year to start wearing clothes without logos. You do not need a 7-figure net worth to start saying no to purchases you can afford. You do not need to own rental properties to begin investing $500 a month into an index fund and letting compound interest do what it does. The gap between where you are now and where the secretly wealthy person at the next table sits is not a gap of income. It is a gap of accumulated decisions, made quietly, repeated consistently, and never announced to anyone. The person at the next table, the one in the faded polo, the one who just paid for a regular drip coffee while the person behind him ordered a $7 latte and put it on a credit card. That person may be sitting on a net worth that would surprise everyone in the room, and you would never know it because that is exactly how they designed it.